From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
So just to let you know a little bit about the series, the Homegrown series was created to showcase the best of traditional music and dance from around the country. And as you may know, we also have a lecture series called the Benjamin Botkin Folklife Lecture Series. And in fact, we have a lecture in that series tomorrow with Fiona Ritchie from the Thistle and Shamrock. So come back for that if you're interested. But the reason for mentioning that is that for years I have been talking with Brian Peters, one of our performers tonight, about the idea of doing one of his ballad presentations here. But it didn't quite fit with our usual Botkin audience, and our Homegrown concerts specifically are about music from around the United States, so it didn't really fit in that series either. So we kept the idea in mind, and over the years things changed, and one thing that changed was that Brian started to do this great show focused not just on ballads, but on Cecil Sharp's collecting in the Appalachians. And this made the bridge between his English material and our American material just much clearer. And beyond that, he started to do the show with a really fine old-time musician named Jeff Davis. And Jeff, in addition to just being a great guy and a great musician, is a protege of both Frank Warner and Mike Seeger, two major collection donors for the center. So all of a sudden, there were lots of connections with our collections. And so this year seemed like a great opportunity to do it. And the final thing that helped make it possible, especially as an evening concert here, was an offer to co-sponsor by the Folklore Society of Greater Washington, also known as FSGW. So, to briefly switch hats, I'm also a board member of FSGW, which is a nonprofit membership organization dedicated to presenting and promoting folk music, folk song, folk dance, storytelling, and other folk arts in the Washington, D.C. area. So you can find more information about FSGW and the American Folklife Center out at the table that's just outside. And that's also where you'll find recordings by the musicians tonight, which you can purchase out there at the break. So we're coming up on some important anniversaries. This year actually marks the 50th anniversary of FSGW, and 2016 is the 40th anniversary of the American Folklife Center. And more importantly, 2016 is also the 100th anniversary of Cecil Sharp and Maud Karpeles' first trip to the Appalachians. And we don't need to say much more about that because Brian and Jeff are going to tell us all about that. But we should mention that AFC has a really interesting collection made by Maud Karpeles with Sidney Robertson Cowell in 1950 when they went back to the Appalachians and visited some of the same communities and tried to find some of the same singers that Sharp and Karpeles had collected years before. So we do have some direct collection connections to the Sharp collection as well. So there's a couple of more little details I want to mention. One is that the library has asked us to conduct an audience survey, and so there's survey forms out on the table out there at the break. If you could fill one of those out, that would be wonderful. A second thing is that the artists have asked me to mention that they're going to be back in the US in October, and touring together, I should say, in October, doing a different show, and FSGW will be involved in that. So if you stay in touch with FSGW, you can find out more about their upcoming concert. And so apart from that, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the performers. Brian Peters is one of the leading solo performers of English traditional songs and music, and he frequently tours in the United States, and he's been teaching at a lot of the sort of Appalachian heritage centers, including the Augusta Heritage Center and the Swannanoa Gathering, teaching some of these connections between English song and American song. And Jeff Davis, as I mentioned, had worked with Frank Warner and with Mike Seeger and with a lot of great musicians, but just apart from that, he's a wonderful old-time musician and a terrific guy as well. And so he's a banjo player, fiddler, and singer, and we really are happy to have him here tonight as well. And so please welcome both of them, Brian Peters and Jeff Davis.
Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is how to give an introduction. Absolutely professional, world class. Well, sing a song with us for starters. There was a ship a-sailing on the North America, and she went by the name of the Green Willow Tree, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. They had not been a-sailing for 2 weeks or 3, till they were overtaken by the Turkish reveille, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Oh, cried the captain, whatever shall we do? For the Turkish reveille will surely cut us all in two, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Oh, cried the cabin boy, what will you give to me if I will go and sink for you the Turkish reveille, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. I will give you gold, and I will give you fee, and my only daughter, your wedded wife to be, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Out on his back and away swam he, and he swam till he come to the Turkish reveille, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. He had a little instrument just fitting for the work, and he bored 9 holes in the bottom of the Turk, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Some they came with hats, and some they came with caps, and they tried for to fill them salty water gaps, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Out on his back and away swam he, and he swam till he come to the Green Willow Tree, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Oh, cried the cabin boy, come take me up on board, and be unto me just as good as your word, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Oh, no, cried the captain, I'll not take you up on board, I'll not be unto you just as good as my word, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. If it wasn't for the love of your daughter and your men, I would be unto you just as you done unto them, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Out on his back and away swam he, farewell, farewell to the Green Willow Tree, sailing o'er the lonesome lowlands low, so level and so low. Good singing. Thanks very much.
So that was a ballad from what has been described by a reliable source as one of the greatest folk song collections of all time. I thought you'd be more excited by that piece of news. One of the greatest folk song collections of all time. And that collection, as Steve has explained to you, was made almost 100 years ago. It began 99 years ago, almost to the week. And it concerned a fellow who was at the time considered the foremost expert on English folk song and also on English folk dance, and his name was Cecil Sharp. We saw him just now in that sequence of photographs, which incidentally were all taken by Cecil Sharp himself, except for the one where he appeared in the white hat with the lady with the bonnet. You saw that one. And
selfies not having been invented yet. Somebody else took it up.
So Cecil Sharp, as we shall see, made 3 visits to the Appalachian Mountains. He went looking for British ballads that had been taken out there by emigrants across the ocean and which had survived in surprisingly good health in some of those remote mountain communities for 100, 150 years. So this is the story of that quest.
It's, I think people think that these old songs largely came out of absolutely nowhere, but nice to remember that Cecil Sharp wrote that down on August 24th, 1917, outside Manchester, Kentucky, which was a deprived old town, and he noted in his diaries about its lawlessness and the difficulties of the town and the gunplay, and being a somewhat polished English music teacher from England, he was not exactly feeling entirely comfortable in all these places. And we'll talk much about that. Quite difficult time he had finding the old songs, of which he did such a good job. The song, Green Willow Tree, came not just from anywhere on that August day, but from Polly Patrick. And she was a 45-year-old widow, and Sharp had struck up a very close friendship to Polly Patrick, which he described that they said that they had vivacious talks. And she wrote to Sharp months later. She said, "It would do my very heart good to see you." And here they are enjoying a smoke together, which I think was not the only time that happened. We are going to have a lot of readings from Sharp's diaries, and the perfect person to do that, of course, is Brian Peters with his polished, received English accent. So please welcome Cecil Sharp.
She has been married 3 times, but was born Patrick and still is Patrick. Her first husband, Hobbs, was a good sort in his way, she said, but killed a man and had to go to the penitentiary. So she took up with one Baines, who was a rotter, and whom she sent about his business in 3 months. The third one, Burns, was better, but a slacker and wouldn't work, so she kicked him out and for the 3rd time paid $2 to get back her old name of Patrick. As it costs $2 apiece to alter the names of the children, they remain with their father's names. She is a very nice and capable person with a fund of racy expressions which delight me. Talking of England, she said she would like to go there. If it weren't for that big river, I'd done been.
Well, the Green Willow Tree that you sang so nicely is exactly the kind of song that Sharp came to America to find. The title of his book that came out as a result of his travels was English Folk Songs in the Southern Appalachians. And you're going to hear a lot more than just that tonight, but after about a score of years collecting songs in the south of England, he found himself somewhat difficult financial straits and was going off to America to be advisor in various productions, in particular a production of Midsummer Night's Dream in New York City. And he's also giving lectures on English song and dance around the country. But he was laid up in Lincoln, Massachusetts, and a woman named Olive Dame Campbell had been in the South with her husband, who's a missionary teacher, and had uncovered lots of songs. She didn't go there looking for songs, but discovered there was all kinds of music down there, and she was not a trained musician, but she wrote them down as best she could, and she went all the way to Lincoln, Massachusetts, and presented Sharp with her sheaf of songs, and she'd written down 200 songs. Well, Sharp was impressed. He hadn't realized that there's such a wealth of material in America, or a wealth of very, very old stuff.
So after this meeting, Sharp decided on this single-minded quest to find these old British ballads that were still nestling there in the mountains. It was a quest, as we will see, that had all kinds of problems with the health and the travelling and the terrain and the weather. But nonetheless, they stuck at it. So the Green Willow Tree that you just heard was a version of an old British ballad called The Golden Vanity that goes back to the 1680s. And the earliest version we have of that ballad mentions Sir Walter Raleigh, who was one of Queen Elizabeth I's courtiers. But not all the songs that Cecil Sharp found had got that kind of pedigree back in the old world. His collection, as we found when we began to explore it, includes quite a lot of songs that were clearly formed in America, and several that were equally clearly of African-American origin. So we're going to sing you a version of the Gospel Plough that Cecil Sharp found. He recorded that he'd heard it sung by school children in eastern Kentucky. We would love to believe that these were the school children. This is definitely one of Sharp's photographs of school children, but we can't tell you for certain that these were the very ones.
So I think you'll recognize this song from any number of sources, but this is the way Sharp heard it. It's the way he wrote it down. We added the banjo part based on the banjo style of an old banjo player by the name of Doc Boggs, one of my favorite players. All right, Brian. One of these days about 4 o'clock, this old world gonna reel and rock. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. Ringing any bells with anybody? Some of these days, and I don't know when, this old world it's going to end. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. Go away, Satan, and let me be. You fooled my brother, but you won't fool me. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. Satan wears a sinful shoe. If you don't mind, he'll stick it on you. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. At the rising sun, God's gonna stop your lying tongue. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. I ain't been telling, but I've been told the street says pearls and the gates is gold. Keep your hands to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. Well, when I get to heaven, I'm gonna sit down, wear a white robe and a starry crown. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. I'm going to heaven, I ain't gonna stop, ain't gonna be no stumbling block. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. And one more time. Hold on, hold on. Keep your hand to the plow, hold on. Well, Sharp arrived in the Southern Mountains in July of 1916, and commenting on the spectacular, overwhelming sights that he saw and the extraordinarily difficult journeys, he wrote about it often in his diaries. About the 25th of June, 1916, he wrote this.
Despite the heat, the dust, the lack of food, the swarms of flies, hay fever, asthma, etc., it was a wonderful trip. The road from Knoxville here would be difficult to beat in any part of the world, I imagine. The usual line from New York via Salisbury and that from Knoxville here direct are washed away. The 125 miles from Murphy took us 8.5 hours. We had never less than 2 and sometimes 3 engines to haul us along. This may not be the actual locomotive, but I do like American steam locomotives.
Well, it's also completely irrelevant to the program, but Brian has a slide in every of a train in every show he does. So. Well, so that's maybe the train they were on. Here's a picture of Cecil Sharp and Maud Karpeles at Berea, Kentucky Railroad Station. And that's actually them. Well, Maud Karpeles, that Steve mentioned, was a remarkable woman herself and will be much featured in this program. She was his assistant and faithful companion through all 3 trips that they made to the mountains, and it is easy to say that without her, the trips would not have been possible. She was a former social worker from deep inner London, and she started a Morris dance team in the East End, and developed an interest in folk songs and got involved with the English Folk Dance and Song Society, which is where she met Sharp. She accompanied him not only on the trips to Appalachia, but to several of the earlier trips that he made for teaching in places like Maine.
So here they are giving a demonstration of Morris dance up in Maine. At this point, Maud Karpeles was 31 years old and Cecil Sharp was 57, which made him too old to serve in the First World War. At the very moment he was out here doing his song collecting, several of his younger colleagues were being cut down at the Battle of the Somme, which upset him dreadfully. So we're going to look now at where exactly they went. This is for the benefit of English audiences who have no clue really where the Appalachians are, but kind of know basically that people play banjos there.
Brian grew up thinking that in America, that the places in America must be relatively close to where they actually were in England, so that New Hampshire must be... Yeah, another bad education system. Well, so what you have here is the brown parts are the Appalachian chain, and the red states are the 4 states where they visited, which I don't think I need to tell you what those are. But they concentrated in the central part, and through absolute magic, an arrow will appear on the map.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yes. So they headed up in, let's see, it was actually July 27, 1916, they headed up into the hills and mountains around Madison County. And they lodged with a missionary, Mrs. Edith Fish, that they described as a grim old maid. Sharp said,
Breakfast at 7, and we started across the mountains to White Rock via Marshall, one of the most frightening experiences I have ever gone through. There was not a vestige of a real road until we got to Marshall, nothing but deep mud, sometimes nearly up to the axles, or huge stones and boulders. I should not have believed wheels and horses could get over such tracks unless I had seen the thing done.
They often traveled in what was called a jolt wagon for some reason. Well, Miss Fish did take them to meet local singers, and they met Granny Banks, who did sing several great songs for Sharp, but she was a bit reluctant because she had taken up religion and was reluctant to sing the old love songs, as they called them. And this was often a problem that they ran into. On day 4 of their trip, they met Mary Sands. And Mary Sands was what Sharp described as a prize folk singer and sang several versions of wonderful old ballads that you may have heard: Silk Merchant's Daughter, Golden Glove, Polly Oliver, The Outlandish Night. Sharp went looking for old English songs, and he often described meeting people in the mountains who seemed very English to him. But Mary Sands was not. She was English, descended from the Sheltons, who were early arrivals in the area. But her great-grandmother was Cherokee, and her name was Glumdoclitch. Mary Sands' descendants, who you may know, Sheila K. Adams and Joe Penland, are still singing the songs, Mary Sands' descendants.
Sheila K. Adams said to me last week that she detects a family resemblance between herself and Mary Sands.
Another important families were the Hensleys of Carmen, North Carolina. One day, Cecil Sharp and Maud Karpeles walked 6 miles down a very rough track, a wet and troublesome, though pretty path.
This may not be the precise wet and troublesome path.
Sharp said,
Found Mrs. Hensley and her daughter Emma in. The latter very pretty, looked full grown but was only 13. Made great friends and got them both singing. Dined with them, and after dinner, Reuben Hensley, who was the the husband and father, turned up and played his fiddle. So we're going to sing you an old English ballad that had passed into the repertoire of Mrs. Rosie Hensley, one of many of our old ballads about young women who have to dress up as a man in military uniform in order to pursue her lover across the sea after he has been pressed into the forces. There's a song called William Taylor. Some of your American versions of this song have an interesting line where the young woman's sailor's uniform, on which she has disguised herself on the ship, suffers what you over here call a wardrobe malfunction. But we don't like to excite our audiences too much, so Rosie Hensley's version did not include that detail, but nonetheless it includes a really great moral to the tale, which particularly seems to appeal to some of the female members of our audiences. Young William was a bold true lover, for pride and such youthful ways, but when his love it did discover, it was for Lady Gay. The day was set for them to marry, dressed they were and all ready, but instead of William being married, pressed he was and sent to sea. She dressed herself in a sailor's jacket, on the sea or for to sail. Now may I eat only bread and water till I see his face again. Good lass, what is the matter? And what's the fortune that's brought you here? I am in pursuit of my own true lover, who sailed away another year. If you're in pursuit of your own true lover, then good lass, tell me his name. His name it is young William Taylor, who sailed away across the main. If his name it is young William Taylor, very like I know the man. If you rise early in the morning, you'll see him walking on the strand. So she rose early the very next morning, just before the break of day, and there she spied young William Taylor walking with Lady Gay. Oh, is this you, young William Taylor, by your side? Is this your wife? The one that's got you never shall enjoy you. For this wicked crime I'll end your life. She called for a sword and a brace of pistols. They were brought at her command, and there she shot young William Taylor as he held his new bride by the hand. So William's shot by his own dear Polly. These two lovers, they had to part. Now all young men, pray pay attention. how you treat your own sweetheart.
Well, Cecil and Maud got on particularly well with the Hensleys and their daughter, spent several days there. Sharp wrote,
Maud and I dined with them each day, and the rest of the time sat on the veranda while the three sang and played and talked, mainly about the songs. I must have taken down 30 tunes from them and have not yet exhausted them.
The Hensleys were very enthusiastic about sending daughter Emma off to school, and Sharp sent the school fees that had to be paid and money to have the uniforms made, and Emma was enrolled. Just a couple of days later, Maud Karpeles and Cecil Sharp went down to a ferry, and who was there but Emma, having run away from school. But Sharp wasn't angry. He wrote that he suspected that a Presbyterian education would probably have stifled her singing, and that he said it was better that she kept her liberty. Unfortunately, all of Sharp's photographs and the visits to the Henleys have been lost. We hope they turn up someday, but they haven't yet. But here's a picture of Emma years later, when, as Steve mentioned, Maud Karpeles went back in 1950. He located quite a few of the singers that were still alive, Emma being one of them, and there she is looking quite happy, I must say. Sharp often talked at great length with the patriarch of the family about current affairs, world events.
Found him on his back with bare feet in the veranda reading. Got me to explain the significance of the Dardanelles and questioned me about the pyramids and the Panama locks. But whatever we did, there was singing and fiddling all the time, and I got some very interesting stuff. They always tune their fiddles in this faked way when they play Kentucky tunes.
Faked way is an open fiddle tuning, which I'm not going to do, so I don't have to constantly retune fiddle tonight. But this is the old tune called Johnson Boys, which you probably all heard, but the first way through is pretty much the way that Cecil Sharp noted this down. Johnson boys, we went courting. Johnson boys, they didn't stay. The reason that we went no further, had no money for to pay the way.
Had no money for to pay the way. Sharp had some very fixed and preset ideas about the mountain people and wrote about them. I should say that they are just exactly what the English peasant was 100 or more years ago. They speak English, look English, and their manners are old-fashioned English. Heaps of words and expressions they use habitually in ordinary conversation are obsolete. They own their own land and have done so for 3 or 4 generations. They have their American quality that they are freer than the English peasant. I find them very easy to get on with and have no difficulty in making them sing and show their enthusiasm for the songs. They have been so isolated and protected from outside influence that their own music and song have not only been uncorrupted, but also uninfluenced by art music in any way. This is clear enough in the character of the tunes I have collected, which are in a more archaic form than that in which they are now being sung in England.
Now, some of this was a highly romantic notion of what he was observing. Sharp singers were Scotch-Irish, descended from Ulster Presbyterians who had emigrated after 1710 to the East Coast and south and west into Appalachia. They were descended from lowland Scots and northern English, and settled in Ulster by the British government, all very complicated history. And of course, there was a later wave of Irish in the famine. And some of the mountain people were Germans who brought into Quaker, Pennsylvania, and then moved south and west. There were a lot of African Americans, Native Americans, all interacted with one another, and Sharp came to realize this. So our next ballad is one known in England, very old, and quite rare in the U.S., Battle of Wits between a young child and the devil. And it's from Mrs. Coates of Flag Pond, Tennessee.
A weary, stony walk up to the top of Higgins Creek, we called on Mr. and Mrs. Coates, from whom I got a fine ballad, The False Knight. Altogether a very successful, if fatiguing, day. We must have walked 14 miles over very bad tracks. We got back thoroughly tired out at 6:30 p.m., nearly 12 hours since we left in the morning. So I'm going to sing you The False Knight on the Road. The knight met a child on the road. Oh, oh, where are you going to? Said the knight on the road. I am going to my school, said the child as he stood. He stood, and he stood, and 'twas well that he stood. I am going to my school, said the child as he stood. Oh, what are you going there for? Said the knight on the road. For to learn the word of God, said the child as he stood. He stood, and he stood, and 'twas well that he stood. For to learn the word of God, said the child as he stood. Said the knight on the road. I have got my bread and cheese, said the child as he stood. He stood, and he stood, and 'twas well that he stood. I have got my bread and cheese, said the child as he stood. Oh, won't you give me some, said the knight on the road. No, not no crust, no crumb, said the child as he stood. He stood, and he stood, and 'twas well that he stood. No, not no crust, no crumb, said the child as he stood. Said the knight on the road. Yes, and a good staff in my hand, said the child as he stood. He stood, and he stood, and 'twas well that he stood. Yes, Yes, and a good staff in my hand, said the child as he stood. I wish you were on the sea, said the knight on the road. Yes, and a good boat under me, said the child as he stood. He stood, and 'twas well that he stood. Yes, and a good boat under me, said the child as he stood. I think I hear a bell, said the knight on the road. Yes, and it's ringing you to hell, said the child as he stood. He stood, and 'twas well that he stood. Yes, and it's ringing you to hell, said the child as he stood. He stood, and 'twas well that he stood. Yes, and it's ringing you to hell, said the child as he stood.
Well, beautiful ancient song. Well, this next slide shows Sharp's notebook.
That very song.
Very song, there it is. Taken down that day from Mrs. Coates. So he wrote down the melodies. Maud Karpeles wrote down the words in long or shorthand, depending on what she was doing at the time, and Sharp noted down the music. And here is a music book page.
Oops, sorry. No, you missed it. Sorry, if you weren't paying attention, it's too bad.
No, I wasn't. No. Well, anyway, here's a famous picture of Cecil Sharp and Maud Karpeles at work. Now, some of the visits that they made were highly successful. 30 songs in a couple of days, 20 songs on a single day, a few tens of songs from a single singer. And when you're reading the diaries, it has been said of some of Sharp's notations, that his diary notes, that when he said things like, "She has a small mind to be worked," or "when I have caught him and emptied him," suggesting that he was exploiting his singers, but we think not. He had a very arch sense of humor and often was making fun of himself. And he often formed very close relationships with people like the Hensleys. Sometimes the quest, and people who've done any song collecting know, sometimes the quest for old songs can be very frustrating. The singer might be forgetful, or, as we mentioned earlier with Granny Banks, have recently converted to a holy roller sect and not singing the old songs. And sometimes a day could involve a huge amount of travel, 15 miles of walking over a rough track and searing heat, and getting there, and the person who promised to be there that day was not. Just wasn't home, and nothing to do but move, go on back. But there was one particular singer who we're fond of hearing about, who was Sharp was very interested, extremely keen to engage.
I am now trying to run to earth a famous singer in this section, William Riley Shelton, usually known as Frizzly Bill or Singing Will. 9th of August, 1916. In the evening, wrote many letters to Miss Henricks about arrangements to catch Frizzly Bill for next week. August 15th. Frizzly Bill was to have turned up in the morning, but failed to do so. After waiting for him until 11, I gave up. August 16th. No Frizzly Bill. August 28th. On returning home, met Campbell, who had found Frizzly Bill and brought him with him, the latter staying the night at Mr. Sol Shelton's and promising to sing tomorrow morning for me at 8. What will he give me? August 29th. Frizzly Bill came in directly after breakfast, and we had a long séance till 12 when we adjourned for a recess. As I feared, he was practically no use. He is a poor singer and did not know even the words of a single ballad I asked for. Reputations are made here in the mountains, as they are elsewhere, on small foundations.
And over a year later, all this still rankled. Sharp wrote on October 5th, 1917.
These singers of wide reputation, e.g. Frizzly Bill, rarely have much of value to me.
Well, religion frowned on the old love songs, the ballads, and and dancing and the fiddle, the instrument of the devil. To get around this, kids did something called play party games, which you've probably heard of. Gene Ritchie, who you may have heard, knew a lot of these. Dance-like moves accompanied by the kids' own singing rather than by an instrument. And so we're going to do a medley of those that Sharp collected.
Accompanied by Jeff Davis on the spoons. A dazzling spoons break will occur at some point in this medley. Do you want your spoons leg rest?
Yes.
The official spoon player's leg rest has been procured. Here is the cover of a book of kids' songs and play party tunes that was published from Sharp's collection. And here is the medley we're going to sing.
With the singers and the places where they lived. I wonder where Mariah's gone, I wonder where Mariah's gone, I wonder where Mariah's gone so early in the morning. She is gone and I can't go, she is gone and I can't go, she is gone and I can't go so early in the morning. Give her a kiss and march on through, give her a kiss and march on through, give her a kiss and march on through so early in the morning. Now we promenade 1, 2, 3, now we promenade 1, 2, 3, now we promenade 1, 2, 3 so early in the morning.
Some loves coffee, some loves tea, some loves money, but they don't love me. Singing in the lonesome cowboy, singing in the lonesome sea. I wish in vain, I wish I was a child again. Singing in the lonesome cowboy, singing in the lonesome sea. But a child again I ne'er shall be, till apples grow on an orange tree. Singing in the lonesome cowboy, singing in the lonesome sea. Your gold shall rust and silver shall fly, but constant love shall never die. Singing in the lonesome cowboy, singing in the lonesome sea.
I would not marry a blacksmith, he's always in the dirt. I'd rather marry a soldier boy who marches in the dirt. Soldier boy, soldier boy, a soldier boy for me. If ever I get married, a soldier's wife I'll be. I would not marry a farmer, he's always in the grain. I'd rather marry a soldier boy who marches in the rain. Soldier boy, soldier boy, a soldier boy for me. If ever I get married, a soldier's wife I'll be. I would not marry a doctor, he's always killing the sick. I'd rather marry a soldier boy who marches double quick. Soldier boy, soldier boy, a soldier boy for me. If ever I get married, a soldier's wife I'll be.
This is the way we go to church, go to church, go to church. This is the way we go to church every Sunday morning. This is the way we wash our clothes, wash our clothes, wash our clothes. This is the way we wash our clothes early Monday morning. This is the way we iron our clothes, iron our clothes, iron our clothes. This is the way we iron our clothes early Tuesday morning. This is the way we go to the store, go to the store, go to the store. This is the way we go to the store early Wednesday morning. This is the way we sing the song, sing the song, sing the song. This is the way we sing the song early Thursday morning. Come on, Jeff, dazzle them.
Away down yonder in the cedar swamp where the water's deep and muddy, there I spied a pretty fair miss, and there I spied my honey.
Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home. Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home.
I built my wife a fine brick house, and I built it in the garden. If you don't mind, she'll jump out, so fare thee well, my darling.
Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home. Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home.
Well, the love of one is better than none, and the love of two is plenty. The love of three I can't agree, better not love so many.
Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home. Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home.
Well, the blue-eyed boy's gone back on me, and the brown-eyed boy won't marry. The For I'll marry a cross-eyed boy, better old maid life I'll tarry.
Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home. Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home. Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home. Swing a lady up and down, swing a lady round, swing a lady up and down, swing a lady home.
Professionalism. Okay. You're going to get your banjo, you're going to take it. Yep.
So, thanks. That medley included snatches of some old British folk songs, like that one about I wish in vain, I wish I was a maid again was the original. It was a song about an unwanted pregnancy. So there was some old English folk songs there, but obviously some of those songs were American made. So Sharp didn't exclusively look for old English songs, but nonetheless the ones that really excited him were the old ballads, especially those that were rare, such as the one Jeff's about to sing you, which was called Earl Brand, which was pretty much extinct in Britain by 1916. And here is the man from whom he collected this song.
Nearly extinct in England, but he found 6 versions of it, actually a dozen versions of this song. The man in the picture here is Philander Fitzgerald, who competes for the best name in the collection and the best beard. Ryan actually votes for Mr. Coates' beard, but I think Philander Fitzgerald wins. At any rate, Sharp said,
A wonderful 10-mile drive right into the heart of the mountains. We sally forth and call on Mr. Philander L. Fitzgerald and his blind wife, with whom we spend several delightful hours. They live in a very small cabin high on the mountainside. The two are heads of a large family, numbering 120 in all, including 10 grandchildren and 65 great-grandchildren. When I related to Mr. Alex Coffey, who was another local singer, what Mr. Fitzgerald had told me about his 120 progeny, he answered, I dare say that is quite true, and not one of them is of any account. Mr. Philander Fitzgerald is an old Confederate soldier. He sang several excellent songs and is a really delightful man, 76 years old.
I tried to imagine Sharp's collected almost all things that were unaccompanied, but I tried to imagine a few cases what it might have sounded like if that old singer had played the banjo and had tried to put the old ballads, it happened quite a lot, put the old ballads on the banjo. So Earl Brand. He rode up to the old man's gate and loudly he did say, Bring your oldest daughter at home, the youngest I will take away. Rise up, you 7 brothers all, and bring your sister down. Let it never be said that a steward's son has taken her out of town. I thank you, kind sir, said he, I am no steward's son. My father's of the richest kings, my mother's a Quaker's queen. Had not rode but 3 miles from town when he cast his eyes around. He saw her father and 7 of her brothers come up, trickling over the plain. Light off, Lady Margaret, he said, and hold my horse in your hand, while I go fight your 7 brothers all, and your father by them stand. She held, she better held, and she never said one word until she saw her last brother fall, and her father she loved more dear. Oh, hold, Lord Thomas, she cried, oh, my God, your blows are now full sore. Many's a true love I might silk handkerchief, it was both soft and fine. She wiped it up her father's bloody wounds till they ran more sear than wine. Lord Thomas mounted his milk-white steed, Lady Margaret she mounted her bay. They rode till they come to his own mother's hall, crying, "Mother, are you at home? Mother, mother, go dig my grave, go dig it wide and deep, and place Lady Margaret at my side, the better that I may sleep." Lord William died about midnight, Lady Margaret sometime before day. If any other couple may ever come together, may they be more happier than they. Robrand.
So Sharp later presented or sent a woolen jersey to Philander Fitzgerald, and Philander's wife got a pair of kid gloves from Maud, and this is one of many examples of Sharp being generous to many of the singers. He wrote that he gave generous gratuities to stimulate the memory in several cases. So even Frizzly Bill, who we've heard all about, got $5 for his trouble. So
Which was a lot of money.
it was a lot of money in those days. Polly Patrick, who we heard, the Golden Vanity, sent an appreciative letter to Cecil Sharp, which we don't have time to read now because we're kind of rushing towards the interval time, and we're going to try and keep that interval as short as possible because we've got a lot of stuff to pick in. So do you want to take it from the,
Yes,
the
yeah.
children's songs bit?
So this is a song that Sharp learned from a fellow named Fitzhugh Drowan, who competes for one of the better names in the collection. Sharp actually got quite a few good songs from him, but he was a little critical of Drohan's attitude. Thought he had a bad attitude. He said he is a mountain boy, but now he's only interested in things that contain great thoughts and regards the fool songs as something far below his intellectual notice. Well, this is a song that he sang.
And do join in with our chorus.
Yeah, and of course it says, "To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far faddle, to my long way home." Got it? Repeat after me. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far faddle, to my long way home. You got it. Here we go. When I was a little boy, lived by myself, all the bread and cheese got put it on the shelf. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far fowl, to my long way home. The rats and the mice led me such a life, I had to go to London for to get myself a wife. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far fowl, to my long way home. Well, I sold my wheelbarrow and I got me a horse. I run that horse from course to course. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far fowl, to my long way home. I sold my horse and I got me a cow, and in that trade I just learned how. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far fowl, to my long way home. Well, I sold my cow and I got me a calf, and in that trade I just learned half. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far fowl, to my long way. Well, I sold my calf and I got me a goat. I went to the election and I sold my vote. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far fowl, to my long way. Well, when I was a little boy, I lived by myself. All the bread and cheese I got put it on the shelf. To my wing wong waddle, to my jack straw straddle, to my John far fowl, to my long way home. little break.
Well, the man in the picture is Mitchell Wallin, and the first of those tunes was the High March. Mitchell Wallin was a brother of...
Gone back there.
Oh, how did that happen?
No.
No.
Yeah.
That's Mitchell Wallin. Half-brother to Mary Sands that we met earlier, and one of a small number of fiddlers, but nonetheless some significant fiddle tunes that Cecil Sharp collected.
The first one was called High March, not very much like a lot of Southern tunes. The second one Sharp wrote down as Matches Under the Hill. Well, on Sharp's last trip to North Carolina, he visited Burnsville and the home of Mr. and Mrs. Dellie Hughes.
We had only time to stay half an hour, but found her a good singer and a great character. She and her husband lived in a tiny cabin and were clothed in rags, presenting a sorry sight. We promised to be back again next Wednesday in the morning to hear her sing again. She called Maud the pretty little girl, and when I said that would make her conceited and Maud said I was jealous, she said, well, I like the old boy, and it is clear he has graduated in music. So, Mrs. Hughes, here she is again on the steps of her cabin. She gave a lively demonstration of a type of song called a jig, and she also sung a very famous old British ballad. A version of the Gypsum Davy or the Seven Yellow Gypsies with a particularly fun chorus. The squire, he came home that night, inquiring for his lady. They answered him with quick reply, she's gone with the Gypsum Davy. Rattle-tattle-ding, tattle-ding, tattle-ding, ding, rattle-tattle-ding, dee-ay-zee. Rattle-tattle-ding, sing a little diddle-ding, sing a little diddle-ding, dee-ay-zee. Go saddle me my milk-white steed, bridle him already. I'll ride all day and I'll ride all night till I overtake my lady. Rattle-tattle-ding, tattle-ding, tattle-ding, ding, rattle-tattle-ding, dee-ay-zee. Rattle-tattle-ding, sing a little diddle-ding, sing a little diddle-ding, dee-ay-zee. I went down to the riverside, it was wet and muddy. Looked away to the other side, and there I found my lady. Rattle-tattle-ding, tattle-ding, tattle-ding, ding, rattle-tattle-ding, dee-ay-zee. Rattle-tattle-ding, sing a little diddle-ding, sing a little diddle-ding, dee-ay-zee. Christmas, will you come with me, my honey? Well, I'd rather a kiss from the gypsy's lips than all your golden money. Rattle, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, ding, rattle, tattle, ding, daisy. Rattle, tattle, ding, sing a little diddle ding, sing a little diddle ding, daisy. How can you leave your house and home? How can you leave your baby? How can you leave your fine feather bed for to go with a gypsy Davy? Rattle, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, ding, rattle, tattle, ding, daisy. Rattle, tattle, ding, sing a little diddle ding, sing a little diddle ding, daisy. Well, I can leave my house and home, and I can leave my baby. I can leave my fine feather bed for to go with a gypsy Davy. Rattle, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, ding, rattle, tattle, ding, daisy. Rattle, tattle, ding, sing a little diddle ding, sing a little diddle ding, daisy. Now, where were you last Friday night along with the gypsum Davy? Yes, sir, I lay on the cold, cold ground with the gypsy standing by me. Rattle, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, ding, rattle, tattle, ding, daisy. Rattle, tattle, ding, sing a little diddle ding, sing a little diddle ding, daisy. Pull off your fine, fine shoes made of Morocco leather. Give to me your lily white hand and fare you well forever. Rattle, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, tattle, ding, ding, rattle, tattle, ding, daisy. Rattle, tattle, ding, sing a little diddle ding, sing a little diddle ding, daisy.
We're going to sing a song from the singer in the collection, Sharp's collection, I think we know the most about. And in part, that's true because she's the only singer from the collection that had a biography written of her. And this is the only performance of this that we've ever done that included the author of the introduction to Betty Smith's book on Jane Gentry, who's sitting in the front row, Cecil Conway. Who, by the way, has done this fabulous work of collecting folk music all around the country, black banjo players, and ballads, and all kinds of things, and you should look out for works she's done. Cecil Conway. But Betty Smith is a singer from Kentucky who got interested in Jane Gentry, and Jane Gentry lived in Hot Springs, North Carolina, but she wasn't born in Hot Springs. She was born in the northwest corner of North Carolina. And a woman named Elizabeth Dotterer said of her that she was the best ballad singer she ever heard. She was a generation back, she said. She was a good singer, but there was something pure about Mrs. Gentry singing, the sweetest, most cheerful person always. And a man named Bill Morse said that she was the most beautiful singer you've ever heard. Well, I am neither the sweetest, most cheerful person, nor am I the most beautiful singer you ever heard. But I happen to know something about the singers from where Mrs. Gentry was from, which is Watauga County in northwest corner of North Carolina. And part of the reason that I went to college in North Carolina was because of the people, those singers in that area. So I don't really know. We have no recordings of Jane Gentry. We have recordings of her daughter, Maud Long, but we don't know exactly what Jane sounded like, so anything is speculation. I'm going to sing one of her old songs in the style of more or less of the way it would have been sung way back, a generation before, in the northwest corner of North Carolina, and try to take you back to that era. And see if I can get a key. How came that blood on your shirt sleeve? Oh, pray, love, tell me. It is the blood of my old greyhound that run the fox for me. It is too pale for the old greyhound. Oh, pray, love, tell me. It is the blood of my old gray mare that plowed the field for me. It is too pale for the old gray mare. Oh, pray, love, tell me. It is the blood of my youngest brother who hoed the field for me. And what will you tell your father dear when he comes home from town? I'll set my foot in yonder ship and sail the ocean round. And what will you tell your sweet little life when she comes home from town? I'll step her foot in yonder ship and sail the ocean round. And what will you tell your three little babes when they come home from town? I'll leave them in the care of you to set my children free. And what will you do with your house and land? Oh, pray, love, tell me. I'll leave it in the care of you to set my children free, to set my children free. So something like Jane Gentry, maybe.
So leave out the letter?
Yeah, leave it. A letter, a very grateful letter that Jane Gentry wrote to Cecil Sharp, but we don't have time to read that today. We're going to go straight to another of the singers that Sharp visited, whose repertoire and whose singing voice were perhaps not of quite the same quality as Jane Gentry's, but nonetheless, Cecil Sharp was very interested in her and her repertoire. He met this woman, Julie Boone, in Micaville, North Carolina in 1918, and wrote, "Mrs. Boone is 49 years old. Her neighbors call her queer, i.e. crazy, but she has plenty of brain and talks well and intelligently. She is very reserved and rarely talks to anyone except when someone talks to her. She is rarely at home, wandering all around the country barefooted and staying wherever she happens to be when it is dark. She was quite ready to sing and evidently enjoyed it. Many of her songs she learned from her father. She evidently had a great deal to do with Negroes sometime in her life, for she sings many of their spirituals."
So Sharp noted down the song from Julie Boone. He called it Swannanoa Town, but we think that what she said was Swannanoa Tunnel, which was only 20 miles from where she lived. So the song is Swannanoa Tunnel, and about Swannanoa Tunnel, and it bored through the granite mountainside and took decades to finish, and 300 convicts died in the process of building the tunnel. And the song was probably made by convicts on the chain gang, and so referring to, thinking back to so many recordings we've heard of Alvin Lomax primarily recording chain gangs will sing it something like that style, having no idea exactly what Julie Boone would have sung it like, but thinking we know what she would have heard.
I'm going back to the Swannanoa Tunnel. That's my home, baby. That's my home. I've been hammering this old tunnel 7 long years, baby. 7 long years. I got a letter from a little lover. Said, come home, baby. I said, come home. If I live till the 4th of December, I'm gonna go, baby. I'm gonna go. When you hear my bulldog barking, somebody round, baby. Somebody round. I got the hammer, kill my partner. Can't kill me, baby. Can't kill me. I got a letter from a little lover. I said, come home.
come home. If I live till the 4th of December, I'm gonna go, baby. I'm gonna go. I'm going back to the Swannanoa Tunnel. That's my home, baby. That's my home.
Nothing that keeps you up from his work.
Well, we've discovered in researching all this that absolutely nothing would keep Cecil Sharp from his work. On the 29th of April, 1917, he was lodged at Lincoln Memorial University, Harrogate, Kentucky, and took songs down from students despite a high fever. He wrote,
Had a terribly bad night, coughing continuously from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Head and neuralgia still rather bad. The side of my face so sore I cannot touch it, and the scalp of my head so tender I cannot brush my silver locks. In the afternoon, take down several songs from Miss May Ray and one more from Alice Parsons. So I was curious about the Lincoln Memorial University. I was imagining maybe it was somebody like Oxford or Cambridge University that we have at home, and that the students there were the sons and daughters of great privilege. So I tried to do some research about Lincoln Memorial University, and I didn't come up with very much, but I did come across this photograph, which was taken in 1906, and the caption was, "From such homes come the students who attend Lincoln Memorial University." Oh, wrong one, sorry, there's the one. So at Lincoln Memorial University, Cecil Sharp met a young woman called May Ray, who sang to him on his sick bed. She was brought in to sing for Cecil Sharp as he lay there on his bed of fever. And she sang an English nursery rhyme that goes back to the time of Queen Elizabeth I, called A Froggy Would a Wooing Go. Froggy went a-courting and he did right, chow, willy, chow, wee. Froggy went a-courting and he did right, chow, willy, wee. Froggy went a-courting and he did right, pistol and sword hung by his side. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree, chow, willy, wee. He rode up to Miss Mouse's hall, chow, willy, chow, wee. Rode up to Miss Mouse's hall, chow, willy, wee. He rode up to Miss Mouse's hall, up he jumped and loud he squalled. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree, chow, willy, wee. He took Miss Mouse upon his knee, chow, willy, chow, wee. Took Miss Mouse upon his knee, chow, willy, wee. He took Miss Mouse upon his knee and he said, Miss Mouse, will you marry me? Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree, chow, willy, wee. Not without my Uncle Rat's consent, chow, willy, chow, wee. Not without my Uncle Rat's consent, chow, willy, wee. Not without my Uncle Rat's consent, I'd not marry the President. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree, chow, willy, wee. Uncle Rat ran up the wall, chow, willy, chow, wee. Uncle Rat ran up the wall, chow, willy, wee. Uncle Rat ran up the wall and he says, the devil's amongst you all. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree, chow, willy, wee. He ran down the other side, chow, willy, chow, wee. He ran down the other side, chow, willy, wee. He ran down the other side and he said, Miss Mouse shall be a bride. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree, chow, willy, wee. Where will the wedding supper be, chow, willy, chow, wee? Where will the wedding supper be, chow, willy, wee? Where will the wedding supper be? Way down yonder in the hollow tree. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree, chow, willy, wee. was a bumblebee. Chow, willy, chow, wee. The first to come in was a bumblebee. Chow, willy, wee. First to come in was a bumblebee, and he tuned his fiddle across his knee. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree. Chow, willy, wee. Next to come in was a little fly. Chow, willy, chow, wee. The next to come in was a little fly. Chow, willy, wee. Next to come in was a little fly. He brought in an apple pie. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree. Chow, willy, wee. The last to come in was the old grey cat. Chow, willy, chow, wee. Next to come in was the old grey cat. Chow, willy, wee. The last to come in was the old grey cat, and she made a supper of Uncle Rat. Rig-tum-a-riddle-um-a-rig-tum-a-ree. Chow, willy, wee.
Well, despite Sharp's interest in English songs, he found all kinds of things, as you've already heard. Typically, they believed that running into African Americans wouldn't produce the kind of music that they were looking for, and so they didn't spend a lot of time in black communities. Maud Karpeles' diary describes a visit to a settlement where they were encountered, as they arrived, a black man, and so they turned away, which is too bad, but you should know that just while you were having such a wonderful time at your break, we just met Maud Karpeles' great-nephew and great-great-niece who came to say hello. And so we have to say hello. Oh, there they are, back there. And it's a shame you had to sit in the back row. It's not fair somehow. Oh, there's 2 seats right here, we're told, if you want to come up. Wow. Well, they did note down a couple songs, two ballads from black singers, and Brian's going to sing one of them. From Aunt Mariah Toombs from Nellisford, Virginia, in May of 1918.
This is Sharp's transcription of Aunt Mariah's version of Barbara Allen, one of the best-known ballads, one of the most popular ballads of all time. And Sharp's account runs, "After tea, we went to see Aunt Mariah Toombs, rather a nice old lady who sang us one good tune. Aunt Mariah's aged 85. She was a slave belonging to Mrs. Coleman, who freed her after the war and gave her the log cabin in which she now lives, which used to be the overseer's home. I found her sitting in front of the cabin smoking a pipe. We sang her the Cinnamon, which delighted her beyond anything and made her dub me a soldier of Christ." Somewhat ironic because Sharp was a lifelong atheist and socialist and actually couldn't bear religion of any kind. He particularly despised those infernal Methodists. Anyway, his singing of "Oh Sinner Man, where you gonna run to?" which he'd already collected during one of his trips to the mountains, swayed Aunt Mariah, who he says sang very beautifully in a wonderfully musical way and with clear and perfect intonation. So, of all the versions of Barbara Allen that I've heard in my time, Aunt Mariah's is the first one that I ever really felt I wanted to sing. One cloudy day in the month of May, when rosebuds they were swelling, young William on his deathbed lay, for the love of Barbara Allen. He sent his servants after her, for his sake he sent them. Our master's sick and about to die. It's for your sake he's dying. Slowly, slowly she got up To his bedside going, she pulled the curtain to one side. Young man, I think you're dying. Yes, my love, I'm very sick. Death on my brow is dwelling. No better will I ever be if I can't have Barbary Ellen. He turned his face to the war. She turned her back upon him. Young man, you'll get no love from me if your own heart's blood was spilling. Do you remember last Saturday night down at my father's dwelling? You passed the drinks to the ladies all and slighted Barbary Ellen. Yes, I remember last Saturday night down at your father's dwelling. I passed the drinks to the ladies all and my heart to Barbary Ellen. She rode to the edge of town. She heard those small birds singing. They sang so sweet, they sang so loud. Hard-hearted Barbary Ellen. She rode east, she rode west. She saw his cold corpse coming. Now lay him down in the cold, cold ground. Let me look upon him. Father, Father, dig my grave. Dig it deep and narrow. Young William died for me today. I'll die for him tomorrow. They buried William at the top of the church, Barbary close beside him. From his grave sprang a red, red rose from Barbary Ellen's briar. They grew to the top of the church till they could grow no higher. They weaved and tied in the true love's knots. The rose hanged on the briar. They weaved and tied in a true love's knots. The rose hanged on the briar.
Beautiful version of that. Well, religion found on the dancing and frowned on the fiddling, and the play party songs were one way around it. And then there was what Sharp called jigs. Sharp described solo displays that sounded a lot like what we call ham boning. And he gives this account of Della Hughes, the lady who sang him Gypsum Davy, performing a jig.
She stood up, patted, sang, and danced. No, that is not the picture of Della Hughes. Never mind. We'll come back to her. All very excitedly, and seemed to think we should be rather shocked by the exhibition, for she asked us to promise not to tell any of our friends in Burnsville that she had sung jigs to us. The words were put in at random on the spur of the moment from a large stock of phrases she had in store. I have heard of jigs before, and have gathered that they were frowned upon by some people, and I have no doubt that some of the play songs I have taken down were jigs, and intended to be danced, sung, and patted in the way that Mrs. Hughes performed this one. So, this is the cue for the photograph. This is another singer who sang jigs to Cecil Sharp. Her name was Mrs. Eliza Pace of Leslie County, Kentucky, and according to Sharp, she was a great offender in retailing moonshine and has been sentenced several times. So she sang the following jig, which Cecil Sharp believed that these kind of songs were sung as an accompaniment to hoedowns in the absence of a fiddler or banjo picker. We have a banjo picker, fortunately. Whether we have a fiddler on this side of the stage is more debatable. It's called Sugar Babe.
Have your fun, sugar babe.
Shoot your down, let's have your fun. Run like the devil when the police come, sugar babe.
Well, I got drunk, fell on the floor, sugar babe. I got drunk, fell on the floor, good
Cold liquor and on some more, sugar babe.
Well, I got drunk, fell against the wall, sugar babe. I got drunk, fell against the wall, good cold liquor was the cause of all, sugar babe. Well, I went fishing, stayed all day, sugar babe.
I went fishing, stayed all day, caught me sucker and saved it away, sugar babe.
Well, shoot your dice and have your fun, sugar babe.
Shoot your dice, have your fun. Run like the devil when the police come, sugar babe.
Well, that's what she sang, minus the fiddle and the banjo. Just so you know, Sharp absolutely hated American popular music, and let's see, are we going to do? Do we have time for this?
Yes,
Yeah.
Boney. You mean?
Over here?
No.
No. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, that's where we go. Isn't that where we go to next?
Okay. We're
So
editing
we're
as we go
editing
here,
this on the
sorry.
move.
Hated American. He absolutely hated American popular music, but liked the movies. One very unexpected thing that happened to them was when they were in Kentucky in 1918, they were mistaken for German spies. And at a fair meeting, some communities have been overtaken by paranoia, and people like Sharp and Karpeles came in, different accents, different dress, everything about them, and Sharp actually did hear about a couple being arrested.
We sally forth to our old friends, Mrs. Townsley and Mrs. Wilson, who were ready to hug us with delight if we would have submitted. They had heard that a man and woman had been arrested for spies at Middlesbrough, and all the neighbours assured them that we were no doubt the criminal couple. Mrs. Wilson nearly came to Middlesbrough to see if she could help us. So this Mrs. Wilson and Mrs. Townsley were a mother and daughter. Oops, dear me, where are we going? There's Mrs. Townsley. And they became good friends of Cecil and Maud. According to Sharp, they contributed ripping songs. And Mrs. Townsley, this is one of my favourite of Sharp's pictures. It's just beautifully sharp, and there's so much character in that woman's face. She was described in Sharp's diary as a Creole woman, Irish, come French, come Indian. And she sang this old Scots ballad about a character who was very popular in a number of folk songs from the old world, whose name was Napoleon Bonaparte. Yep. Now Boney is gone from the wars of old fighting. He is gone unto the place that he takes no delight in. And there he may sit down and tell all the sins of sinners, while forlorn he does mourn on the Isles of Saint Helena. Louisa, she weeps for her husband's departing. She dreams when she sleeps and awakes broken-hearted. Not a friend to condole, even those who might be with her. And she mourns when she thinks on the Isles of Saint Helena. The rude rushing waves all around the shores are washing, and the great bellows heaves on those wild rocks are dashing. He may look to the moon on the great Mount Diana, with his eyes all the waves that surround Saint Helena. And no more in St. Cloud he will be seen in such splendor, or go on with the crowd like the great Alexander. For the young king of Rome and the prince of Guyana says he'll bring his father home from the Isles of Saint Helena.
Well, thanks. Well, needless to say that that tune and song weren't performed typically in the mountains on mandocello and concertina. But Brian's one of England's best box players, so we had to give him an opportunity to play. Well, the tune that followed the song was a version of Bonaparte's Retreat, and it was not collected by Cecil Sharp, but by Maud Karpeles when she went back in 1950. And she learned it from the Sugarloaf Sheltons. That's your cue, Brian.
Yes, there they are.
Yeah, yeah.
There they are indeed.
Sugarloaf Sheltons. And we can't absolutely be sure that this is the Sugarloaf Sheltons, but we think that they are.
They are definitely the Sugarloaf Sheltons, but
They are. Oh, good.
we don't know whether they're related to the many singers called Shelton that Cecil Sharp had met back in 1916. So we're just coming up to our final song of the show. So this is one from their very last trip. And by this time, this was the third summer that they'd been collecting. It was the year of 1918, and Cecil and Maud had amassed over 1,600 songs, which is a pretty good haul if you're a folk song collector. You're going to be quite pleased with that. So some of those songs are quite familiar. Many of them have lain undisturbed in Sharp and Karpeles' book, English Folk Songs of the Southern Appalachians, for many, many years, but others are quite well known in the folk revival. Black is the Colour. Some of you might have heard Christy Moore do that. It's been kind of appropriated by the Irish repertoire these days, but that was collected from Mrs. Lizzie Roberts of Hot Springs in 1916. Nottingham Town was the template for Bob Dylan's Masters of War, and that came from two girls who were at school in Berea, Kentucky, who it turned out later we found that they were both called Ritchie and were the elder sisters of Jean Ritchie, who you all know about. So this is a song called Jack Went A-Sailing, that Sharp and Karpeles noted on one of their very last trips, which they made to Virginia in August 1918. And it was from a Mrs. Frances Richards, whose husband was Ebenezer, hence the name Sharp gives her. Then went on half a mile to a Mrs. Ebby Richards, who to our joy proved to be a first-rate singer, the first we have struck this trip. She sang me a dozen, and then it was time to get back. Now, Cecil and Maud, as usual in the mountains, were being put up by missionaries, and their hostess really disapproved of Mrs. Richards. He wrote, "We were told blood-curdling stories of the escapades of their father and near relations, their rascality and low mentality, etc. Oh, these missionaries. Their whole life seems set upon ignoring the good and nosing out what is objectionable in anybody, except themselves, of course." So despite all those warnings, Cecil and Maud became actually really quite friendly with Mrs. Richards, and when Maud Karpeles came back in 1950, she heard of another collector who had followed in Cecil Sharp's footsteps in 1935, and she wrote this.
These are Maud's words, by the way, people in the back. I heard later that Mr. Winston Wilkinson, a collector of folk songs, that he had called at her house to inquire about songs. She was not there, so he explained his mission to her little daughter, who offered to fetch her mother from the cornfields. Mrs. Richards came running hot-foot to the house. But when she saw Mr. Wilkinson, her face fell, and almost weeping, she exclaimed, "But it's not Mr. Sharp." Over and over she repeated, "He said he would come back." So sing this last song from Mrs. Richards. Oh, Jack, he went a-sailing with trouble on his mind, to leave his native country, his darling left behind. Lily, lily, who, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, who, sweet lily, I love you. She dressed herself in mangeray and apparel she put on. Into the field of battle she marched her men along. Lily, lily, who, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, who, sweet lily, I love you. Your cheeks are red and rosy, your fingers they are small, your waist too slim and slender to face a cannonball. Lily, lily, who, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, who, sweet lily, I love you. My cheeks are red and rosy, my fingers they are small, it never makes me tremble to face the cannonball. Lily, lily, who, sweet lily, I love you. darling love she found.
Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you.
She picked him up all in her arms and carried him to the town and called for a London doctor, his healing bleed the wound.
Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you.
This couple, they got married so well they did agree. This couple, they got married, so why not you and me?
Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you. Lily, lily, ho, sweet lily, I love you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.